Good morning again, dear colleagues and our dear facilitator today, Mr. Tsepo. My name is Lawrence, again from the RCD department. It's now 9:05, and I will just introduce the topic and our facilitator today before we may begin the session. Can I just confirm if everybody can hear me? Can you just confirm with a thumbs up if everybody can hear me? If I'm audible now? Okay, perfect. So as I said again, I'm from the RCD unit, and I'd like to thank all the attendees for taking their time to join us today. And most importantly, our presenter, Mr. Tsepo, for his efforts in preparing to give us this presentation. So before I introduce, I would like to go over a few housekeeping rules. Just to note that this session will be recorded, and the recording and the workshop presentation slides will be posted on our model community at the end of this week or by next week. They should be there on the model communities. And I just wanted to note that if you have any question during the presentation, you may raise your hand and I will unmute you and I will indicate to the presenter so that we may address your question. And also please note that there will be a feedback survey that will be posted in the chat box, and we humbly request you guys to fill it in so that we may get insights on how useful and how we can improve in the future in terms of these workshop. So without further ado, I will introduce our facilitator for today, Mr. Tsepo. Victor Satere is a faculty officer at the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, and he will be giving us this workshop today based on the thesis format and the submission procedure. Obviously, his main focus is the postgraduate examination and the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, FHDC admin, process custodian. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenter for today's workshop, Mr. Tsepo. You may begin the session. Thank you.
Like I said, good morning, colleagues. Can you all hear me? I'm gonna share my screen. Can you all see my screen? I'm assuming everyone can see the screen.
Yeah, you can see a screen now. Thank you.
Okay. So, colleagues and everyone that is here, I'm not alone. I'm with my colleagues. I know Mr. Shabang is here. Mr. Nkosi, my line manager, is here. And I think some of the colleagues will also be joining us as we proceed. Yeah, they'll be here for questions. When you guys have questions, it won't only be me who's answering, but I'll be taking you through the whole basically workshop of masters and PhDs. And again, thank you from the postgrad school for organizing this. It's very important in the line of my work or in what I do as an examination officer. I've realized that a lot of students embark in this journey, but they are not really fully informed as to what goes on, what will happen during those years and all that. And sometimes that is a struggle and it can be financially implicating for them. But hopefully we have more of these workshops online, doing things online. I can't see your faces, guys. I can't even see you guys when you accept me, but it's okay. I'm gonna start. So what I'm gonna do is they told me that I'm gonna focus on the thesis format. and the submission procedures, which in our office, our postgrad office in FEBE, I'm the one that actually deals with all the submissions for masters and PhD. And with those submissions, normally when it comes to thesis format, we are not strict, or we don't have a specific one. As long, we just say to students, as long as you've got your supervisor details, your title is on on your thesis, and again you have a UJ logo, it's acceptable. Obviously, it goes through supervisors first, and they are the ones that will let you guys know that if it is ready to be sent out. So I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna go touch base on what we have, which is not specifically part of the submissions. But with what we have 5 schools, which is the civil school, the mining, metallurgy, and chemical school, mechanical and industrial school. We also have electrical and electronic, and we also have the postgraduate school of engineering management. I'm sure some of you fall somewhere in our 5 schools. I'm gonna okay. I'm trying to okay. What will happen is I'm gonna take you guys. So I'm gonna start it where it's not really about the submission, but it's a process that's leading you to submission. Where I'm just trying to put the whole understanding into masters and then PhD. So after being registered as a student with your department, I know you're gonna start working on a proposal. So now we know that when we apply, when you apply, we don't really demand the proposal. You just complete the study area, and as you start now working with your supervisors, you'll work on your proposal, and then the defense will also take place within the 9 months of your registration with the different school. And again, as the student, what you need to know is that within 3 months of your registration, so that is now your journey has begun. You are a registered student. You should be. There's 2 things that you should have as a registered student within 3 months, which is the complete study field, which is the supervisors must be assigned. So you must be having a study field, you must be having supervisors. That's within 3 months. So if you don't have those in 3 months, it's a problem. You need to come forward, you need to go to the faculty, you need to go to your department and just, push these people to assist you with those 2 things, which are crucial. In that, I'm just going to take you through how they get approved. How do you go about getting your study field approved, which is mostly an internal matter. It doesn't really involve the student much, but it involves the student in knowing and in making sure that your supervisor do it so that it's there on the system. So you don't have any problems by the time you submit. I don't question you. I don't have anything. Remember that you have an agreement between you and your supervisors. You've embarked in a journey that is your master's or your PhD, which is your 2 years, 3 years. So that journey, it's the 2 of you. It's all, if you have a call, it's all of you guys in that journey. So what will happen is the agreement between supervisors and students for masters. What happens is we the study field, the supervisor, your supervisor, the one that I said within 3 months must be assigned, will complete the study field form. The study field form must be signed by both, or not both, by your supervisor or the head of school. So the HOD should sign, the supervisor should sign. If the HOD maybe is your supervisor, then the head of school usually signs there, and the form must be sent to FHDC. So what is FHDC? FHDC is a faculty committee that we have. Each and every item or process of masters or stage that you go through must go through the committee, where the committee takes place once a month. Only in December we don't have a committee, but in the 11th month of the year we do have it. We do have that meeting once a month, and it's normally communicated to the department, and your supervisors know. So that's where they submit things like your study field form, send it to the committee. The committee will approve it. Once it's approved, Then we capture it on our side. Then it gets to be on the system of UJ. Now the university recognize you that your study field is what, and your supervisor is so and so and so. Then in a case of maybe throughout, because it's a journey, it has already started. Like I said, within 3 months, you should be having this. So you've started working now. So in a case of maybe replacement or where you feel like your study field, after 6 months, you're like, no, the study field that I have, I want to change it, or I want to change my supervisor. Your new supervisor or your HOD will help you to embark again in the same process of, submitting the form, your supervisor, your HOD signing, and then your supervisor or that study field you included there, then it gets to be sent to us for approvals. And then once it's approved, we capture everything on the system. Mr. Lawrence, I want you to am I audible enough? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you properly. I don't know about
Alright.
the others.
Alright. No,
Yeah, I think they're all putting up thumbs up. I think they can hear you well. Yeah. Thank you so much. You may proceed. Thank you.
So now so now the journey has started. You're in your masters. I said two things are important, especially in the beginning. Obviously, by two things, you've already passed the part of the most important part is the registration. Remember, for you to be considered a student, you register. That's why I didn't, go into that part much. But again, I have to emphasize it that at that time you are registered. You within 3 months, you must have your supervisor, you must have your study field in the system of university, where now the university recognizes you as a student that is doing masters in electrical, in mechanical, with the study field, so and so and so, with your supervisor. Then now the most important part comes in. But with this part coming in now, normally it I'm gonna make an example with masters is 2 years maximum. So this part will normally comes in your second year, where you've been working with your supervisor. You now know your title, your study title, where you know that this is the title I'm focusing on. And that I know normally will happens when you're about to, or ready to submit, when you feel, what, I'm ready, my study is now at a point where I'm sure I'm not changing anything, I'm sure about my study. What your supervisor need to do, which you as the student, you can just make sure or have that talk with them to say, as my supervisor, have you now submitted the form of a title? Have you now submitted a form of nominations of assessors? Because remember now you're ready to submit. You need to be having a title. Again, your title should be on the system. You need to be having evaluators or assessors. Sorry. You need to be having assessors or examiners, people who will evaluate your work as soon as you submit. So once you submit, those things must be approved. And again, like I said, everything, every stage, every process gets to be approved where? At FHDC. Before, which is our faculty committee, before we can put it on the system, FHDC should say, we are happy, we've checked it, then it's ready to go to our ITS system now. So the study title, I'm going to start with the study title. That's again an internal process, but that you also as a student need to know and be very close to, especially with the journey that you be having with your supervisor now. That's normally takes place where the student is about to complete or finalize their dissertation or thesis. Here, supervisors, again, they're the ones that complete the study title. It must be signed by the supervisor. It must be signed by the HOD. If in that case, your HOD is your supervisor, it gets to be signed by the head of school. Sent to be part of the agenda for the FHDC meeting. Then once it is approved, it gets again can be captured on the system, so that again the university knows that this student's title is this title. So everything must be on the system. It is very important that those things are on the system. Yes, like I said, it's an internal process, but one that you can also, ask from your supervisor to say, are we done with this part? Since now I'm about to get to this part, working together. It's more or less the same. You complete that title that you have on the form. Your supervisor will make sure all those things are sent straight to the committee. And when it comes to examiners, normally these two forms go hand in hand. When it comes to examiners, what will happen is your supervisor will now need to go out, because normally we use external supervisors, but I'll go deeper when I go to the assessment side. So your supervisor will have to go out and look for assessors that will work on your thesis. he needs to complete the form, get their CVs, he signs the form. Again, the HOD or the HOS signs the form. The form gets to be compiled and sent again to FHDC. The FHDC will check everything. If they're happy with everything, they will approve, and it gets to be captured on the system. Then the university knows that, okay, this so-and-so student is doing his master's. His study field is this, study title is this, supervisors is so and so and so and so, and the people that will be marking the work is so and so and so and so, from University of where, from a company of where and when. Which those are very important to have, because without assessors, like I said, your work will not go anywhere. It will be stuck with me because the supervisor didn't nominate anyone to mark it, and that would be delays. Like I said, at first I said a lot of students embark in this journey and they end up, paying more than what they were supposed to pay, or being charged more than what they were not supposed to be charged, where you find that some of the processes were just, there was nothing happening. So I felt like I needed to include you guys as students and also supervisors more, that you work together in such processes. I mean, for me to say you work together with your supervisor, it's from knowing that as a student, you know that your supervisor is not just supervising you. So we're human beings, mistake happens, we forget things. But if we working together and we keep reminding each other of such, it helps and it speed up things. Yeah, that's the process of nomination. Again, in the case of replacement or amendment or any additions, the study title or the nomination must undergo again the same process where the HOD your supervisor will sign, and HOD completes sign the form, and then you send it to the committee, they approve. Which happens. Sometimes you have assessors that will say maybe they were nominated and approved, they don't want to mark, maybe they're busy with something, or you want to amend your study title, you feel like you need to maybe add another weight, or because remember again that what makes this too important, the study title, again, guys, when you complete your master's or thesis, it goes to your certificate. So imagine if you have a title that is not your title, or that is your title, but you've changed it. I mean, the one that you submitted for final submission, the one that is on your thesis or your dissertation is different to the one that is on your certificate. That is a problem, and we all don't want that. Hence, I say these two are very important, and the nominations, or these ones, are mostly important because there's nothing that will happen without them. This is the form that your supervisor complete, and again, before I get into fully the assessment, the submission procedures, I also wanted to add this part where it's called a study break and an appeal. So I'm just gonna quickly talk about this too. So a study break is normally, so with masters, let's say for example you started your masters, you've just registered this year, and you realize that 2025 you'll be busy in German, or you'll be doing something that will not give you enough time to focus on your masters. What you do is you ask for your supervisor, or you come to the faculty, you ask for a form. We have a form which is called the study break form. So you complete the form. Mostly you write the motivation, reasons as to why you will not be able to come back next year. And both the candidate and supervisors must sign the form. The HOD or the HOS signs the form, then again it gets to be sent to FHDC for approval. If FHDC approves, then your faculty officer, what they will do is they will put it on the system to say, so and so and so on will not be embarking in their master's or PhD in 2025 with maybe the following reasons. And with the study break, it's only applicable for 1 year. So you can't say you're taking 2 years, you can't say you're taking 3 years. Normally we allow you to have a break of 1 year so that you come back and finish the study. But when you've done this, when you've completed that form, the advantage is nothing disadvantages you, basically. How we're not gonna say when you come back. So with masters it's 2 years. So you start the first year, we put it at pause. You still, when you come back, you're still at your first year. You're now going to be studying your second year. But it gets different if you just go AWOL and didn't complete the study break process. When you come back, we assume that you are in your second year of your master's, because you didn't say anything to us. And this is research. I mean, research can be done every day anyway, you know. And we have what we call an appeal. So this process now normally takes place when two things: when you were not registered the previous year, maybe your last registration was in 2023, 2022, and you were not registered 2023, you were not to come back for 2024, you will have to complete this appeal, where you again write a motivation, complete the form, write a motivation. And in that motivation, I think I forgot to include the study plan. Now, with this one, now you write a motivation as to what happened. Maybe you were not here due to health reasons and all that. But again, you put a study plan. Now, the study plan needs to show that it's the plan of the year that they'll be giving you. So if it's masters, you'll say next year, because you're saying you're coming back, what is your plan? What are you planning to do? When are you submitting your chapters? Like something like that. You know, that's the type of plan we're talking about. And again, both the candidate and supervisors must sign. HOD and HOS must sign the form, send it for approval at FHDC. Once this is approved, then they will, when feedback comes back, your faculty officer will let you know that now you can proceed and register, and again continue with your master's or your PhD. Now this is the part that I think this is the part of submissions which I normally deal with, where you guys will be interacting with me more now when it comes to this part. Submission guidelines and timelines for master's dissertation and thesis. Guidelines are as follow. So here, submission with FEBE. I know with other faculties, we are one UJ, but we do things differently somewhere, somehow. But with us, the submission is throughout the year. So the whole time, when you can submit at any day, at any given, hour, but you submit during the working hours of every day, basically. So we don't have, specific times where we say you submit and all that. But we have our cutoff date, which is the 3rd of December. This is just us, making sense and being realistic to say we cannot tell people that they can submit until, the last day of the university where it closes. And someone need to go through that document. Someone need to send it out. So to avoid all those things, we've created a cutoff date of the 3rd of December. So after the 3rd of December, whoever submits, it's not going to be sent. It will be sent out the next year. It might be sent out, let's say, if the work was not much, or we get the opportunity to do it, we will do it. But you know that it's on record that once you submit after the 3rd, you just know that your work will be sent out January when we come back, 2025. And there's the most important part, which is the 31st of October is the cutoff date for submitting work without running any risk to register for the following year, which will be 2025. So with this one, you submit after the 31st, we receive it. It's okay. We still continue with our processes, where we'll be sending it out and it goes to examiners, it comes back. But that itself, it's on you. So we will still follow our process to the T. But if it happens that, because with examination, guys, you'll see as I continue with my presentation, that it's very flexible and a lot can happen, especially when it comes to timelines and all that, because it's marked where externally. So when it's marked externally, you're dealing with someone that is at University of, Vet, you're dealing with someone at University of Pretoria. They're also having their load of work at that side. Sometimes they do communicate with us and say, no, man, I see you want your work to be given at this time, but I will not be able to, I can only give it. It's just a matter of forming relationships with them. And through those relationships, we work together through the timelines of the university. And again, these people don't really get compensated. It's just an honorarium. We say thank you to them. So hence, we allow it to be that flexible. And examiners must be approved 4 months before your submission. I think I will also emphasize that as I go along. That's very important. And submissions can be done with us. We allow supervisors to submit. We also allow students to submit. So there's a template that we have that normally when it gets to a stage where I give you the forms to submit, I normally include that template, that just an email style of how you structure your email when you send the examination. It's just for me to not, lose them. Just in case if I open an email, I didn't see it, I know that I'll just visit the folder that they go straight to. And if you've submitted and you haven't received any communication within 3 weeks, we urge supervisors or students to follow up. That is again me coming up with this, way of making sure that we don't lose documents. I mean, if you've submitted and you haven't had anything from me in 3 weeks, you have to come back to me and follow up. If you don't do that, then you want to come back after 3 months and say, yeah, but Mr. Tepo, I sent my document when. I'll ask you, but did you get any acknowledgement saying we've received your work? And that is a problem. That, like I said, that's where you find students being charged for the time that, they were not even supposed to. But yeah. And again, as UJ, as FEBE, what we do is we give our examiners 4 weeks to mark the minor dissertation or full dissertation, and comprehensive research, then 6 weeks for PhD. So like I said, we normally give 6 weeks to evaluate the thesis. And in the case of reassessment, examiners are given 2 weeks again to complete the work. But I'll go more into detail more on reassessment. And again, the feedback is promptly sent to supervisors. That is now when I received, after those timelines, that is when I receive feedback. What I do is I will send it straight to your supervisors so that you guys can start addressing the corrections. And we have a schedule. We have a scheduled presentation. This only applies for PhDs. So PhDs, what normally happens once feedback comes back, we form a meeting or a presentation meeting with them where they're going to defend their studies. We're working on the master's one, but it's not yet, confirmed. It might maybe start next year. For now, we're still continuing with a straight submission to FHDC. But with PhD, we have an oral presentation that occurs where they defend their work. Normally, it takes place in the 8th week, since the work is sent out for 6 weeks. Once it comes back on the 8th week, we normally schedule the date there. And the examination official will schedule the date with the examiners, then confirm the date with the head of school to communicate with the candidate and supervisors. That is again me. I will schedule the date with the examiners because they need to be part of your defense. They can then change it. They're even allowed to change their recommendation and be like, but this person, he wrote something nice, but he's just talking something out of here. They can even change that. Hence the reason we say it's called the defense. And normally it takes place online or in person on campus. And every time examiners are done with the evaluation, they need to be compensated by the faculty, where I said it's not really a compensation, it's just an honorarium where we just say thank you. It's not really much of paying them. And supervisors have a maximum of 2 weeks to compile for final submission at FHDC. Those are your results. Like I said, everything is approved at FHDC. Approved items at FHDC are recorded on the system again, which I spoke about it. But in this instance, it will be everything now, your end of your master's or your PhD, where we capture everything, your results on the system, and the results gets to be documented. So again, I wanted us to now go inside the submission. So when you submit now, these are documents that you need to make sure that you've completed. We have a certificate of release. So a certificate of release, it's actually the form that gives power to student to submit. Basically, when your supervisor have signed it, because it's signed by both supervisors and the student. When your supervisor signed this one, he's saying that he or she's saying that they agree that your work is ready and it can be sent to the faculty. So that's why I allow students to submit on their own, because I know what I will do. I will just check the form if the supervisors agree that the work can go out. And there's an affidavit again, where this one is signed by the student, but it needs the commission of oath. You need to go to the police station, go get the commission of oath stamp, and that's the declaration form. This form, again, it's only signed by the student, where the student is declaring that the work that they're submitting is their work, and no one else will come tomorrow claiming that the work is theirs. And examiners, again, I said examiners need to be approved for us to be able to send your thesis or your dissertation. So with minor dissertation, we appoint 2 examiners. Both examiners must be local. and they're both acceptable without PhD. So you can get examiners that have masters, and experience. They are also allowed to mark. And full dissertation, normally it's 2 examiners must be appointed, and 1 must be local. Unless if you provide the motivation, say you want to use 2 international assessors for masters, all you need to say is just let us know through a motivation that maybe no one in South Africa, focuses on that field, or the people that focus on that field are very busy. You've tried to, engage with them, but you're not winning. And with PhD, 3 examiners must be appointed. One of the 3 assessors should at least be international. So we don't allow 3 local assessors to mark a PhD. We just don't. But we do allow 3 internationals to mark a PhD. But when it comes to locals, at least 1 should be a local between the mix. Yeah, that's about examiners. And it's about the timelines, examination timelines. So with timelines, again, I've also touched on this, but now I'm gonna specify. So with timelines, masters examiners are given 4 weeks to evaluate. 4 weeks, it's 4 weeks is not when you send your exam to me, 4 weeks, it's the time they receive it now. When you send the exam to me, we still work on that 3 weeks that I said. If you haven't had anything from me in 3 weeks, follow up. So I try to make sure that in between that 3 weeks, I've sent communication to students to say, your work has been sent out. Once you've received that email, the confirmation email saying your work has been sent out, then you can start, calculating your 4 weeks. But then again, like I said, with examiners, or for PhD, it's 6 weeks, and for masters, it's 4 weeks. But with examiners, they are very flexible. So I'll send the exam out and come back and send you that communication that exam has been sent out. After 4 weeks, we'll have your feedback. But what will happen is I'll get maybe an email or a communication from one of your assessors saying, "Oh, Chapman, I can't do it in 4 weeks. Can I just give it to you maybe on this date?" Then I agree. Then you come back to me thinking that the results are the assessors are back with feedback, and you only get that no, they're not yet back. Again, it's something that we do it through communication. You as the student will ask me, then I will have to tell you that no, we have to wait a bit. Reason being, maybe I've communicated with this guy, or sometimes you find that assessors just go AWOL. Someone acknowledged that they're marking your work. After 4 weeks, I ask what is happening. They're just quiet. We don't know what is happening. Maybe they're sick. Maybe, they're just not interested in doing it anymore. We people, it happens. It's people. It's not the machines that are doing the evaluations. So I deal with those. That's where I need to now try to come up with flexibility in terms of communication, asking them if maybe can they do it maybe at the later stage, and then I start communicating with your supervisors if we maybe need to appoint the replacement, because we sometimes try to run away from the replacement process, or the additional one. We can't run away from it, but from the replacement we try to run away from it, because again, it's that process of you're gonna have to go and look for a replacement, have a replacement, complete the forms, must go to FHDC, which I said it takes place once a month. So that's when now it gets tricky now to imagine if someone comes back. The meeting was today, and the next day someone tells me that maybe I was expecting your work to come back next week Friday, and someone tells me they can't mark. You know, I cannot just say to them, "Oh, okay, it's fine, we'll replace." What I normally do is I try to understand the reasons as to why. And if maybe I could hear, oh, the reasons is maybe that these 2 weeks she or he will not be able to do it, I can still say, no, it's fine. You can start it at the 3rd week, knowing that still we're going to a point. It was still going to be a timeline. So again, it's still flexibility in between that. And like I said, the thesis goes out for 6 weeks. Then when it comes back after 6 weeks, on the 8th week, that's where I set up the Vivo. But I would have communicated that with your assessors prior to say, guys, this is the date. But you as the student, as soon as they come back, then that's when you'll get communication from me and the HOS saying to you that your presentation will be when and when and when and when. But at that time, remember, in the journey of your study, you still have access to your supervisor. You can still have, all those talks with your supervisor to say, hey, man, when is my exam coming back? What do you think with the present? So you guys can still continue to embark. And I think when it comes to examination, once the students submit, Mr. Shabangu, which we've been having a problem with this. That's when they start thinking that it's done, the journey is done. They don't need to register. They don't need to, it's like they are at the final stage of being with the university, which it is like that. But remember, you are still in the processes of the university, and the university expect you to be registered. Even when you are waiting for that 4 weeks, even when you're waiting for that 6 weeks, you are a student. You have access to the university, you have access to the library. So the university expects you to be registered. So registration is just something that happened in your 2 years of your master's. You must be registered until you get the results on the system saying that you are done. Then there you are done. You don't need any registrations. You are done. Reassessments and expect. So we have what we call, so normally when assessors come back, they come back with different feedback. So some they might give, minor corrections, some they might give major corrections. And in those corrections, you'll find assessors that will say, no, they don't want to see it again. It must be sent to an expert now. So where an expert, what they do is they will just take both reports, and the one that was not given a mark and the one maybe that was given a mark, and just look at both reports and come up with a recommendation whether to pass or to fail the student. And with reassessments, that one is easy because what happens is it's like a sub. It's an assessor will just say, student, I'm happy with the work, but fix 1, 2, 3 for me to be say I'm giving you a pass. Then when you fix one or those corrections, the assessor wants to see it back, and when I send it back to the assessor, it comes back. But normally that's kept at 50, like with a sub, because you manage to add something and be sent to the assessor again. So we cannot allow examiners to give you, distinctions and students are given 2 weeks to work on their corrections. They don't normally comply with the 2 weeks. They will tell you that my study is deep, but yeah, we normally say to them 2 weeks. Assessors are given 2 weeks. Here we are strict. Assessors, we give them 2 weeks to evaluate the resubmission. Because with the resubmission, there's a form that you normally just address the corrections or the comments that he or she said that you must address. So it goes to them straightforward, basically, So we normally give them 2 weeks to work on it. And with the expert, where I say they do the mitigation, we just give them 1 week. They just look at the 2 reports, and then they tell us that looking at the 2 reports, you just have to give the student a pass, or they recommend that now the student must be failed, reason being 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this is just the result pack where it gets submitted to the FHDC. And once your results have been approved by FHDC, this is, I think, the last part. This is the last part where the library publication needs to take place. So remember your work, you were doing your master's, you were doing your thesis. The university still want, remember they were capturing everything on the system. They still want that paper to be on the UJ system again, future references, audit purposes, all those things, so that we know that, we have the students that once did this work, and we can just send you maybe on our website to say, you can go check that student, their informations are there. So we require documents for completion letter submission to the faculty. So these library forms, what we do is for us to give you a completion letter, remember when you are done when you've just got that email that's saying congratulations, you've completed. It's not like you are graduating the next day where you're getting your certificate. Maybe you might need to apply for jobs and all that. So we give a completion letter, a letter that's from the faculty, that's signed by the dean, that specifies that you have completed your master's, you've completed your PhD, you're just awaiting graduation. So you complete what we call an ETD form. This is a form that you allow us, let's say in an instance of masters, you tell us that yes, you do grant us permission to publish your study, the university website. Some students, they don't grant us that permission because, or you find that they're still working on their study still continuing. They don't want people to see it yet. They still want to work on it more. Maybe they continue with it to PhD. We respect that, but we need these forms where you have specified that no, don't put it on the website. And the declaration form, again, that is your own work. You're declaring that it is your own work. And you submit it with the final copies of your dissertation or your thesis, the one that was approved at FHD, the final one where you've included the corrections, everything that you needed to change, you've changed it. That's when you send it to us. Then what we do is we send it to the library for publication, where they can just publish your work to the library website. And yeah, that is the end of submission procedures. Thank you.
Thank you so much about those insights, Mr. Tebo. Really appreciate the insights in terms of, the thesis format and the submissions process. A lot of students really do struggle with that, as you mentioned. And just by them, knowing what needs to be done in terms of that, I think it's very important. I see there is a question in the chat box. It says with regards to licensing and copyrights, does UJ own the IP and the rights of the thesis? Again, what happens in case where you need to convert your thesis into a book? Does UJ negotiate?
Yes, that the university, you can negotiate with the university, and we have someone specifically who we refer you to, which is our library officer Modali. Then she's the one that deals specifically with that. So what we do on our side, we just give you the details of that person, and you communicate with them directly, and they'll be able to assist you when it comes to that part.
Okay. I think that should be answered. There's another question which says, please revert back to the point where you said examiners need to be appointed 4 weeks before submission. I think maybe they just need an extra understanding of, I don't know, what needs to be done in terms of, the assessors being appointed.
Okay. Okay. So with that, it's a FEBE, it's a university policy where like I said, remember I said that when you are ready to submit, your examiner should be approved because your work is going to them. So the policy now comes back and emphasizes and say 4 months before submission, meaning 6 months before it can happen, even a year before you submit, it can still happen as long as for the supervisor to appoint assessors, they need to be sure of the angle of your study, whether now you guys are sure that this is the study that you guys are going with. And what they need to do is they will look for people in those fields who will be relevant to mark that work. Those people must be approved by the committee 4 months before you submit. By the time you submit, they should be there. They should be approved. They should know that in 4 months' time, there's work that could be coming to them. I think that's just the policy part, but it can even happen before the 4 months of your submission. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think they answered. Then there's a question again. It says, thank you for the insightful presentation. Apologies. It says, thank you so much for the insightful presentation. How many articles should one publish before examination for PhD?
So for PhD, it's 2, where the publication part, yes, you have to publish. So what we do is, for us to approve the result, we can still make an exception if we know that your articles have been submitted for publication. So you just submit the proof of submission to your publication, knowing that it's now closer to being published. We just don't want to delay you waiting for the publication, and at that time maybe your study's done. So two papers must be published with PhD.
Okay. See, there is
one with masters. So just to include the masters, one with masters. But I've seen students submit 2. It's still allowed masters, but one should be there.
Okay, perfect. I see there's a hand raised by Isaac. You can unmute and speak.
Okay, thank you. Mine is just a follow-up.
Isaac,
Okay.
you can unmute and speak.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, uh, uh, I'm aware that the PhD time is 4 years, maximum time. So now if I start on the process of submission in the fourth year, but late fourth year, and the process the YC to enter into the fifth year, what will happen exactly? Thank you.
Did you catch that, Mr. Zeppo?
As can Mr. Shabangu, did you catch it? One of my colleagues, I'm not sure. I didn't really catch the whole part.
Can you please repeat the question if that's fine? Can you please repeat the question? Mr. Isaac?
Okay.
Yeah, and you speak a bit louder, please? Thank you.
Oh, the question is the duration, the maximum time allowed for full time on PhD is 4 years time. So now, if I start my submission process, say like in November, it means to complete the process of submission, it will go into the fifth year. So what will happen? Do I need to
So,
register the fifth
so
year?
yes, so once you've let's just say you are in your fourth year, like you say, you've submitted in November. We're gonna try by all means to push your things to come back in time in that 6 weeks time, 4 weeks time. But like I said, with the flexibility of examination, if it happens that your things are not bad, by the time it gets to the year 2025 and registration is about to open, you will need to register for the whole year. But listen to it, this one has a catch. You will need to register for the whole year because the university expect you to be registered for any activity that takes place. So remember, you haven't been approved by FHDC. You know, you can still go through corrections. They can still come back and say, go fix a lot of things. So we cannot assume that now that we have your submission, you don't have to register. For you to undergo those processes, for you to be part of the FHDC, for you to be getting a completion letter, the university you need to be registered for that time. So now the catch comes here. Your work will go to the next year, which is 2025. What will happen in the next year is if it gets approved before registration closes, we cancel both semesters because you've been approved. So meaning you are covered by the 2024 registration. That's in a case where everything, results have been approved and the university registration is still open. But now, if it gets to a part where your university registration gets to close and you get approved while the university registration, maybe you get approved in March, you get approved in April, what normally happens is we cancel second semester because now you didn't use anything on second semester. We're not going to charge you for that, but we will charge you for first semester because you undergone what? Those processes of the university in the first semester. I don't know if that answers your question directly, but yeah, that's what I understood from your question.
Oh, yeah. It is okay. They have got to the point. But how about I told you the maximum time now is 4 years. I have finished my time. Is there a provision for extension?
Just to come in, Sapo. Morning, everyone. So, how examination work is you submitting in November. We can't declare that we are done. Anyone who's under examination, there's a code which we insert on a student record, which is PH, potential graduate. That means should your work not be done in 2024 and you are on your maximum, you will be able to return the following year. So we have an exception for students who are under examination. They can pass to additional fifth year. Also, when we speak about fourth year, is if we're a full-time student for PhD, minimum is 2 years, maximum is 4 years. And for part-time, maximum is 5 years. So, but we still have that exception for additional 1 year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I've got a point.
There is another question in the chat box. It says, I have been doing the study for 3 years now, and I've tried to change to part-time. However, I got an email that my limit has been reached. And also at this stage, I feel like my paper is done, but it is just poor communication between me and my supervisor, and he's not yet happy with the work. At least that is what I think. Is it wise to then change the supervisor or just submit? What would be your advice?
Oh, thank you. That's so I'm gonna advise you from a personal perspective and just the experience of dealing with students. I don't advise you to change your supervisor because you are you guys have done enough. It's you are now at that point where you have to just try and push and be patient with them and just to finish this journey. Because remember where you come from, it's far. So imagine now you want to start the journey again with someone who will now need to go through your work, understand what is going on, which we don't know how long that might take them. And like you said, you're in your final year where the communication has been sent to you that if you don't submit, you'll be excluded, you know. Yes, you will have the opportunity to appeal. But remember, I said with the appeal, you will only get a year again to complete. And imagine if you get a new supervisor and they tell you they don't like, a lot of things that your supervisor did, where you now have to change. It becomes a lot of work for you. I think in this instant, what you need to do is you need to try in human essence, you need to try and just push your supervisor, speak to them, and I mean you are at the end. Or you can maybe include your HOD and ask your HOD to just be involved in the process of helping you and your supervisor, find common ground, find, way forward. Especially if there's that disagreement between, because I've heard that a lot, the disagreement between my work is ready and the supervisor says the work is not ready. I think it's best if you try that route of getting maybe the vice dean or the HOD to just be in the middle and maybe look at both perspectives. Okay, the supervisor saying it's not ready. Maybe they check that they listen to reasons of the supervisor. They also listen to your reasons and they take it from there. But again, you are allowed to change supervisors. If that is really what you want to do, you can do it. But which, from my personal perspective, it's not a good idea.
I think that should be answered there. Thank you for that. There is a question, hand raised by Ramafalo. Can you please unmute your mic and speak?
Thank you, Chair. I think mine is I just needed clarity or in terms of true publication, more especially for the PhD. Does the true publication means journals or true conferences? Thank you.
I don't know if you catch that, either Mr. Shabangu or Mr. Tsepo, did you catch that question?
Sorry if I'm talking, I'm muted here. Yes, I got the question.
Okay.
Mr. Ngosi, in I think a journal and a conference paper, if one journal is there, one conference paper is there, it's allowed. It's something that I would really need to confirm with one of the academics. I'm not sure if we have one in here where can the students submit 2 conferences for PhD without a journal. Can they just maybe send me an email? I'll just give clarity on that, especially from a confirmation of a vice dean or one of the HODs.
Okay, so you can probably drop your email in the chat box, then they will refer back to you.
I'll drop my email.
Okay, and there is another question again in the chat box. Say, does this mean that if the assessors are appointed this month, it means one can only submit next year if they are done?
Can you repeat that?
So does this mean I think referring back to that question of the assessors being appointed 4 months before. So it's meaning that if the assessors are appointed this month, does this mean that one can only submit next year if they are done?
No, like so again, we with processes, we also need to come back to reality. Again, the reality is you will get supervisors that will not submit 4 months before. They'll just submit a month before you submit. Some will just submit the nominations. At that time, you've already submitted to me. That is, it's not a good thing to do, which is not what the policy says you should do. But like I said, being realistic and just looking at situations, you don't want to dwell on problems. So what we normally do is we will send it out. We will follow up on examiners to be approved. So we're not going to send it next year. We'll send it immediately as it comes in. Like I said, my email says 3 weeks. I normally take 3 weeks. I don't take 3 weeks, but it's a maximum of 3 weeks just in case, the faculty is going through whatever it's going through, or there's other things that are taking place, or there's a lot of submissions. I know that in 3 weeks, we can be able to cover those exams and send them out. So I don't know if I'm answering you directly. I'm answering the question directly, or I got lost somewhere in between.
Yeah, I think that should be answered. Whether I think the question was just about to confirm, because if they're thinking that the assessors should be assigned 4 months before, now if they're assigned like now, isn't like today, I don't know if is it a thing of them being approved?
Yeah, it's just a thing of remember the post. It gets approved at the meeting, and the meeting takes place once a month. So let me just put a scenario. So let's say you submit today and your examiners are not approved. Then we have our meeting on the 5th of September. What I will do is I will receive the submission as soon as they get approved in September. I will send it out, but I will communicate that to you, or I will expect your supervisor to have communicated that to you. Because remember, your supervisor signs a release form. That release form, when you guys are sitting together, they're signing a release form. He or she is basically or practically saying that everything has been approved. But like I said, with reality, sometimes it's not the case.
Okay.
Thank you.
There is a hand raised by Renele. You may unmute and speak.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. My question is around the turn it in for the thesis. Now that you have 2 articles on maybe let me say journals published, now you want to do your turn it in for your thesis. Do you also, wouldn't it raise the percentage of your report that there is 2 articles online for that thesis?
It will, and I've seen it being accepted. So it will be acceptable because it's still your work, remember. So and again, I think turn it in specifies where where some of the percentages come from. So that one, it's not much of a problem, because I've seen students having a panic on that, but then the supervisors will just calm them down and say, no, just submit. The committee will see that it's coming from your publications.
Okay, thank you.
There is another question in the chat box. It says, with regards to the reassessment for PhD, the 50% mark will be assigned for the assessor requesting for reassessment or the final score of the student.
Oh, sorry. So I don't want to say yes because you said PhD. So PhD, I'm sorry. When I spoke about the 50% that's up with PhD, remember, we don't have results. We don't have. It's just a recommendation of pass or fail. So with PhD, you don't apply. Nothing changes. If it comes back and the assessor is happy with the work, we proceed. We give you a pass. But with masters, that's where we kept the mark, because with masters has results.
There is another question again from Ronald. He says, good day. This is the best workshop I've attended thus far. Much appreciated. I have two questions. Question number one, what happens if a student received a fail? Do they restart the research or choose a new topic to still pursue the qualification? And question two, what if a student does not wish to graduate for the Masters in Engineering but wants to advance to PhD directly by publishing in journals?
Can you repeat the first question? I missed it.
Or the first question. So what happens if a student receives a fail? Do they restart the research or choose a new topic or still pursue their qualification?
Mr. Ngosi, okay, I can answer it. I wanted to give it to my line manager or one of my colleagues. But so what I know is if you've failed, you will have to register something different now. Again, that's now a process of you applying and being accepted and all that. Yes, there's nothing much that can be done. I mean, I don't know, Mr. Shabangu, can you come in and maybe clarify it more?
So should they should fail, that means they can either redo the topic with the supervisor, restructure it, or they can change the program. So one of the two. And to answer the second question, for students who wish to advance from master's to PhD, it's a different case whereby the motivation will have to be submitted from the supervisor to the vice dean to present to the Senate, and then the Senate of higher degree, the one who can approve or decline. So it's not easy process. Most of the time, they check the topic of the student, if it's a master's topic or it's a PhD topic. So there's a criteria which we don't know that they do from the Senate higher degree. So that's a different case which can be answered by the vice dean. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Shabang. There is another question. It says, I'm a master's student and my assessors was changed at one point or the other. According to my supervisor, the work is more than 1 month with the new assessor already. Please, how can I reach to have an update about the feedback of the assessment of my dissertation?
Okay, so their supervisors can contact me, can just follow up with me, or I do allow students to also follow up, and I just give them update as to where we are with the assessor at that time. But in that case, again, like I said, it's one of those delays that take place because maybe communication was slow or someone that was appointed was not thoroughly communicated with. So with timelines, it's important. Even when your supervisor go and look for an assessor for you, I believe that it's important that they let the examiners know the around about time where they will submit the work, because you can't come to me and say, Tebo, I want you to mark, or evaluate this work, so and so and so. I'll be sending it soon. And then soon becomes 5 months. In 5 months I've already embarked into something else I'm busy with. So how academics are, which I've realized, is when you send them that work after that 5 months, they're not going to say no. They will try because this is what they do for living, and it also benefits them academically. So they will take the work. They will try to just do the work in between their busy schedule, and it ends up delaying us more. So I think it's just a supervisor. Supervisors should just be straight when they appoint assessors for you, that they need to get people that will meet the timeline, and you also as a student need to say, by the time the supervisor appoint, you also meet the timeline of a promised date to submit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think there is a follow-up question, meaning, say, does a publication mean a journal or a conference paper?
Guys, Are you submitting anything today? Not. I'm glad no one is time. So now you decided, Miss Miller.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. So the question is saying, is it a publication or a journal?
A conference journal, a conference paper. Does a publication mean a journal or a conference paper?
It can mean both. Two things. It's two different things, but they're both allowed. We allow a journal, we also allow a conference paper. But both must be published.
Okay. There is another question. So in terms of the IP related studies that it is being commercialized where publication is not possible because of non-disclosure agreement, what happens to the students?
I don't know. My network is a bit. I didn't even catch that part at all. I don't know what is happening. The question says.
In terms of the IP related studies that it is being commercialized where publication is not possible because of non-disclosure agreements, what happens to the students?
I will need to. I'm not sure. It's also again a departmental level of question, and I don't wanna mislead a student. Again, please send me an email. I'll also follow up for you and be able to give you the exact confirmation on that through or via email. Just I've dropped my email on the chat box. Just send it to me. And also again with that student of the fail, you can also send me an email. There's a document that I found that I will also send it to you. It's more detailed. Thank you.
Okay, and again, another question in terms of the journal, because I think you mentioned two journals. So here the participant is asking if the two journals, it's one journal and one conference paper, or it's just two journals.
I'll also confirm it, but like I said, this one I've seen it where students submit a journal and a conference paper. I will confirm if you can submit two journals. They can also drop me an email, but I've seen mostly they submit a journal and a conference paper.
Just to add with that, it is one journal, one conference paper. If the students submit two conference papers, it's also allowed, whereby the higher degree committee will debate about it and advise before approving.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question. Say, do abstracts presentation in conferences add any value to the final examination?
Mr. Lawrence?
Question?
Do abstract presentation in conferences add any value to the final examination?
Yes,
The abstract presentation.
Yes, definitely. For instance, our students who are doing coursework, masters by coursework, sometimes they fail to submit the journal or the conference paper, whereby it is allowed from the faculty degree committee for students to submit the abstract, and once it's approved, then they can be able to be declared as graduates.
Okay, thank you. There's another question says, is the review journal count for graduation or research articles only? The review journals. It said, do they count for graduation or research articles only?
That one will also have to follow up with our vice team, because we don't know the process of Senate.
Okay. I think that should be that, because I see here somebody says, so no publication, no submission. Is that the case, that if you don't publish, you cannot submit?
I'll make example now. We have a student who completed their studies in 2022. The student can't graduate because we've been waiting for the acceptance of the publication. So without any publications, we can't declare you as a graduate because the document is part of and a parcel of you being declared as a graduate.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. There's somebody here say, is it a must to present in a conference?
Also, that's
To
why I
present
need
it-
to. Okay, Tshepo, we can continue.
No, you can go ahead, Mr. Shabangu. Thank you.
So presentation, that's a discussion between the supervisor and the student. Some of the supervisors, they stand on behalf of their student and present on behalf of their student. So that's a agreement between the student and the supervisor.
Thank you so much. And there is a question by Kendo. You may unmute and speak.
Thank you for the presentation. I just want to ask in terms of publication, do one have to be a main author of that publication, or there can be a second author or third author in order for that publication to be accepted?
Did you catch that?
As far as I know, you have to be the main author. Remember, it's your work. You're the lead, writer in the paper. So you need to be the lead. You guys can hear me, né?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. But I think it should be answered. There is a question again. It said, do articles under review by journal editor counted by the faculty or only those that have already been published?
They are counted. So as long as you submit the proof that it's with the publication. I mean, I'm not sure if that answers the question directly. So it says, do articles under review by journal editor counted by the faculty or those that have already been published? No, we do count the ones that have been submitted already, which they're not yet being published.
Okay. Think that should be that. I think all the question. I see there's a hand raised. You may unmute and speak.
Thank you, Chair. I just need clarity on that. What if you submit to say, okay, I've submitted and your article gets rejected? Don't you need a form of acceptance letter to say they're waiting for publication? For me, I feel like just submitting is not enough because there's a possibility of rejection, more especially if you're submitting in highly rated scholarly journals. So just submission, is that enough, or you need something of a sort to say they are waiting for publication? Thank you.
So the proof is actually there, the acceptance. Remember, they also need to accept it on the publication side to say, now we are going through with the publication. So thank you for that. Actually, by proof, I'm talking about the acceptance. So that's coming from the publishers to say we've accepted the work, we're working on publishing it.
Okay, thank you so much. I think they answered. Thank you so much. But inside, I don't know if there is any other questions from the participants or anyone who want to comment or say something. You may raise your hand and we may indicate to our facilitators. I see that there isn't any questions in the chat box. And
Mr. Lawrence, from my side, I just wanted to comment and say that I think this was the first one that we've done, the kind of workshop that we've actually been trying to push such workshops to help the students to actually understand and know what they're going through. But again, we're still offering ourselves as the faculty. I'm at APK with anything, clarity, you can just send me an email, or you can even come to our offices and sit down with us and just try to understand that the journey that you've embarked or have started, what is it that you will be going through, and how can we help you? So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, because this was very insightful, I believe, for the participant and all the students. And you can see with all the questions that were being raised here that there is still a lot of students that still need clarification in terms of the thesis submissions and the procedures. So I think having this kind of workshop really gives them that insight, it gives them that much more information on how they go about it, because usually they're just behind the computers typing the thesis, but I don't know the admin that goes on behind all the work. But
Yes.
You being here and being able to give them that explanation, that clarification, and the procedures really means a lot. And I think, we can see with all the questions that were posed that, this was a very insightful workshop. There is a question rather, again, since like a hand raised. You may unmute and speak.
Yeah, last question. In terms of IP, do you have maybe any idea if IP registered work is also considered as a research output barrier for submission, or it's different as it stands alone? Did you get my question?
IP. What do you mean by IP?
Like,
Can you just be specific?
Like IP registered work, like a study that maybe it's being done prior to, for example, that there will be a company that is formed after the study is being concluded, So because some stuff, like some research, we do register it as IP, and then it's protected. So in the case of a publication, so my question is like, does that study count as a research output, maybe for master's or PhD alone, or again, you need to find something to publish from that study, or wait until everything is done and you are allowed to publish, then you can wait, which can take maybe 2 years or 3 years down the line. Is there any way you can work around that?
I think there is, but what you need to do is just send me an email again, so I can just put you with the relevant person. But as you're not the first person to come with that problem, where I think there is a way to go around that problem, but there's someone specific that I will give you to actually assist you with going through that one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I see there isn't any question. It's just a comment saying that thank you for this session and to really appreciate it. And I just wanted to clarify with everybody that please note that this session is being recorded, as I said in the beginning, and the recordings will be posted on our model communities together with the slides. Obviously, Mr. Tsepo will share the slides with us, and we will post them on our model communities, and you should be able to access them from there. And just a reminder as well to please fill in the feedback survey for this workshop that I have put up in the chat box. So without going any further, I think that should be that. Is there anything that you want to say, Mr. Tsepo or Mr. Shabangu, or any of your colleagues, if there's any comments that you'd like to share or anything before I may close the session, since we don't have any questions in the chat box and you don't have any hand raised? You may give me the go ahead to end the session if that's okay with you.
From us, I think my line manager was here. I'm not sure if he's still here. Sir, are you still here? Maybe you wanna close, but from me and Mr. Shabangu, I think we we're happy to now to want to engage very closely with students. And by engaging very closely with them, we say to them they can contact us, they can send us email at any time, whether it's a small or it's a huge thing. You can just send us the emails. We'll clarify. We're always active on our emails. So if there's anything they need, even after this workshop, all they need to do is just come, avail themselves, come to the faculty, send emails, try to call. And what we will do is we will respond and try to assist as far as we can.
Okay, definitely. We really appreciate that. And just to note, obviously, that we have put up all the email address for Mr. Tsepo in case you want to email him or you want to ask him further. Then definitely, I'm sure he will definitely be able to come to your aid. I see there's a question. It says, when the next graduation is the next graduation in October?
Yes, the next graduation is in October, though I know that the graduation office will send communication to them. So that communication is centralized. It's not coming from us, but it comes straight from the graduation office.
Okay. Nah, perfect. I think from my side as well, as I say that all the slides and the recordings will be posted. And Mr. Tsepo, Mr. Shabangu, I don't think there's anything more they have to say. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much to all the participants for taking their time, and for Mr. Tsepo and his team, and from all the team from the faculty. Thank you so much again for taking your time to come here and give this very insightful, very important, workshop to the students, to all the participants. And we really, really do appreciate you here at the RCD unit. And thank you so much again. And yeah, I will be closing the session. And thank you so much again, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.